Sign this prenup and learn your place. That's what her voice sounded like. Cold, sharp, like broken glass across a silk tablecloth. We were sitting in this high-rise law office in downtown Dallas, everything polished to the point of absurdity, marble floors, gold trim, bottled water from some glacier in Norway. And there I was in my cream-colored dress, hands shaking as I held the thick stack of legal jargon she'd slammed in front of me. I'm Ruby, and that woman, her name was Charlene Whitford, the proud matriarch of the Whitford family old oil money real estate, and so much entitlement you could smell it before she entered the room. She didn't see me as a person, just a threat, a black woman in love with her only son, Zach. I signed the prenup. Every single page, calmly. You should have seen the smirk on her face. She thought she won, thought I had no choice. What nobody in that room knew was I wasn't who they thought I was. But let's rewind for a second. I met Zach at a charity auction in Austin. I was managing vendor logistics. He was presenting a keynote on sustainable development. He offered me a drink. I offered him shade for his predictable suit. We laughed. We talked all night. And from that night forward, we were just us. Zach is good, earnest, raised in a world that told him he was exceptional for doing the bare minimum. But his heart, it was real. I believed in it, until I had to test it, because the closer we got to marriage, the more his mother circled like a hawk. Background checks, dinner tests, casual conversations about my family. She thought I was some broke consultant clinging to a man above my league. And well, she was half right. I was a consultant. But not the kind she imagined. See, my real last name is Kingston. My father, Warren Kingston, is the founder of Kingston International Holdings Technology Energy Media spread across 41 countries. But growing up, he kept our names out of the papers. No tabloids, no trust fund showcases. He told me once, the only way to know someone loves you is to let them think you've got nothing to offer but your heart. So I live simple. Honda Civic, freelance cover stories, low profile. I was testing Zach just like my dad once tested the man who tried to marry my aunt. Long story short, that guy failed. But I had hope for Zach. Until that day in the law office. Charlene had called it a formality. But the document was meant to humiliate me. No claim to property. No voice in future family decisions. If we divorced, I'd get $50,000 per year capped at $500,000. With lifestyle clauses. And a non-disclosure agreement that basically said, keep your mouth shut about our family. I looked at Zach. His eyes were down. He wasn't smiling, but he also wasn't speaking. So I signed. Because in that moment, I needed to know just how deep his silence went. That night, I drove back to my real home, a beach house on Lake Travis, hidden behind trees, private gate, the kind of place that looks humble from the front, but has underground parking and a helipad in the back. I called my dad. He answered like he always does. Hey, princess. I told him everything, how she called me these people, how she photographed me signing the prenup like some poor girl begging for scraps, how Zach just sat there like a statue. He was quiet. Then he said, so, do you want justice or do you want transformation? I didn't answer right away because I didn't know. Not yet. The next day, Zach texted me. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to speak up. I'm trying to learn. I didn't respond. Not then. Because Charlene had just invited me to a lunch, an exclusive private gathering with some of the most powerful families in Texas. She planned to expose me as a gold digger in front of them all. She didn't know the restaurant. My dad's company had just bought the building last month. The caterer, another Kingston affiliate. And 3 of those families heavily invested in Kingston International subsidiaries. Still, I said yes to the invite, and I came dressed in a black sheath dress. Hair up, no designer labels, but every piece on me cost more than the watch Charlene wore to show off her status. She stood up and said, "Everyone, this is Ruby, my son's fiancée. I've gathered you here because we have a responsibility to protect our families from exploitation." She laid out bank statements, emails, fabricated student loan documents from her private investigator, all meant to paint me as a woman with no money, no background, no value beyond her son's love. Zach sat beside me, red-faced, clenched jaw, but still silent. That was when I reached into my purse, pulled out a business card holder, white gold diamonds spelling my name, and I said, "Actually, I'm Ruby Kingston, Executive VP of Kingston International. Our holdings exceed $300 billion in assets. We own this building, half the businesses represented in this room, and by next quarter, we'll likely acquire 3 more. Silence. You could hear hearts drop. Charlene turned pale. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You've spent months documenting your prejudice. I just wanted to see if your son would ever speak up." He didn't. Zach stood. "Mom, you've humiliated the only woman I've ever truly loved." But I turned to him and asked, "Would you still have loved me if I was who she thought I was?" That question just hung there. No answer. I walked out. Back at the house, I watched the sun dip behind the lake and realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done proving myself. 2 days later, Charlene sent a letter. 12 pages, handwritten, a full confession. Her racism wasn't superiority, it was insecurity. Fear that her world was crumbling. Fear that someone like me could make her feel irrelevant. She was taking equity training, selling off assets to fund scholarships for Black business students. I didn't respond right away. Zach quit the family company, took a job at a nonprofit building affordable housing, started speaking up in rooms that used to silence him. He texted, "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to grow." Months later, we got married at my father's vineyard. Charlene was there not as the mother of the groom, but as the wedding planner. She said it was the only way she could begin to repay the damage. When she gave her toast, she said, "Ruby taught me that the most dangerous people in society aren't the loud racists. They're the polite ones who use power to exclude without consequence." She wasn't wrong. So yeah, I signed that prenup. Signed it with steady hands and a calm heart. Because sometimes the greatest power move isn't revenge, it's restraint. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever been underestimated, judged by the way you look or where you're from? If you were me, would you have exposed them or stayed silent to test their character? Comment below. Let's talk about power prejudice and what real justice looks like when it's your turn to rise.